Hi friends, today I want to talk about a few more photos that I've taken, some recently and some not so much so, and break them down. First off, you may notice that I am not filming this video in the normal HD brilliance, with all my pores and freckles gloriously visible in splendor and fortitude as normal. I think that was a proper sentence. The reason why is because my wife has taken my our tripod and our main camera. It's not mine, it's ours. We filmed together, and make sure I disclose that. I appreciate everything my wife brings to the relationship and all the stuff I'm supposed to say there. She took the tripod and main camera away tonight because our friend is going into labor and she's going to be filming a childbirth from inside the room of childbirthing. I figured that that was a bit more important than this video. So as we're working through these photos today, we're going to be talking about a few principles, and one of them being the different dynamic that different cameras can bring to a certain situation, and the value of having a camera in that photographically conducive situation at all. I think we can understand on the base level what the value of that is. And also, how to make a less than unique scene more engaging by inserting an interesting subject into the scene. And also, the glory of having a very unique scene and then inserting an interesting subject into the scene. It sort of levels up the photo, elevates the photo. Here's the first photo that I want to look at today, though. Me and my wife were at a coffee shop being productive. We leave. This is in downtown Salt Lake City, to find two vehicles, soon to be joined by another vehicle, which seemed completely unrelated, drifting around an old shopping market parking lot. And amazed that they have not been reprimanded or arrested yet, we go over there and start filming in very high frame rates and taking photos. I thought I had my camera with me. I had my camera bag, but I did not have my camera. What I mean by my camera is my full-frame DSLR with a long lens that would have been able to capture beautiful cinematic photos, glorious detail, the snow flying around. It would have been a completely different dynamic than the one that was captured here, which is from my iPhone, which I am actually really happy with the photo, but completely different dynamic. And so it's important to pay attention to the different dynamics that a camera and a lens setup can bring to a given situation. If I would have had my camera there, these photos could have been much different. Not necessarily better or worse in this case, but different. Now, one of the things that makes this photo interesting is the intriguing composition of all of the elements coming together here. You have this lovely geometric shaped building, very interesting supermarket building. I'm amazed that this was a store and not some sort of factory. And it has this rectangular and aesthetically pleasing quality to it. You have the smokestack coming up and what have you. Very boxy. I like it. It really works here. And the way that it's framed up in the photo is very nice. It adds to the photo. The photo could have worked without it, but it adds to it. It has a geometric quality to it. The car itself, an interesting thing to think about is that if I would have taken this photo without snow being present, they were just drifting in a snowless parking lot or a wet parking lot, this photo probably wouldn't have worked because we would have had a photo of the back of a car. And I think that it would not have been a keeper. The reason it is a keeper is because it's still a photo of the back of the car, but there's so much interest going on around the snow that's flying off the car, flying over the top of the roof, coming off the wheels, all of this stuff flying around, that it makes the photo work. It was a unique set of variables that made the photo really come together well. Another thing that worked well for this photo is the way that I post-processed it. The shadows in the photo are this sort of red shade, and I did this intentionally. When you have a very cool photo, you can make it just completely cool in terms of all of the tones, in terms of post-processing. Or you can decide to add in a little bit of a warm color somewhere. And for me, I like to do it in the shadows because I think it creates a nice, intriguing contrast, just the same way that if you're taking a photo of a scene that has cool tones and warm tones, they bounce off of each other, and they're very pleasing to the mind. You can do this in post-processing, and I did this here, and I think it worked really well, and it gives the photo a lot of depth and intrigue. Next photo. Okay, so this is a rather bizarre photo, and I think a little bit mysterious, right? You come to it at first glance, you're like, what's happening? Why is there a garbage truck that's on fire? And my answer to that would be, there are a lot of strange people in the world who don't understand that you should not throw your flaming debris into a trash can. You should, in fact, extinguish the flaming debris either with water, a fire extinguisher, or sand maybe if it's an oil fire, this sort of thing. But the idea is generally don't put it in the back of don't put it into a dumpster if it's on fire. General rule of thumb. We've seen this gone wrong many times in society. Now, where was I? It's a very bizarre photo, which is a good way to engage people emotionally into the photo. Now, this is the same reaction in a sense that you can receive from somebody if you show them a photo of someone crying, having an emotional moment. It's still emotional intrigue, it's just a different type. You're sort of triggering the bizarre centers in people's brains. That's odd, right? They decide to explore it, which is a good start for any photo. It's kind of a reaction you want. So they go, what's going on here? And if it's aesthetically pleasing, then that adds to that effect. That adds to the intrigue. Now, the mysterious sort of sub-essence of this photo is another layer of intrigue, right? And so you start to kind of wander the photo and figure it out. Now, this photo was also taken with my iPhone. And one thing that I love about the photo is that all of these firefighters are in pretty unique poses. The one in the middle could have been more, he could have been kind of a perfect stride. That would have been cool, but it totally works. I don't mind it. Now, there's also this principle of a group of three in this photo. This is something that fundamentally engages the mind in art. But what is also interesting is there's actually a fourth firefighter in this photo. If you look in the back, you will see a fourth firefighter standing on top of the parking deck, shooting water into this garbage truck. So if you find a way to frame a photo where there's this initial response of seeing something that's very aesthetically pleasing, and as they dig in, they find more, perfectly fine, right? But it's balancing levels of focus, if you will. This also has very dramatic, well, I'll stay on the expressions for a second. You have the firefighter in the far background on the left side, spraying the hose. The water hose is attached and runs up the frame all the way to the other side, which I think is very intriguing. And then you have the firefighter on the other side also shooting water. Anytime you have water shooting in a photo, it's not a bad thing. You have the firefighter closest to us with a nice splash of light on the side of him and a nice stride. And it creates a sense of depth. We engage with that. And then there's also a sense of dramatic light in this photo. It's very, very contrasty. A lot going on, lots of shadows in the foreground, lots of intense light on the side of the garbage truck, on the buildings in the background, geometric, interesting buildings going on. All of these things lined up. I'm watching the edges as I'm shooting and cropping and editing this photo. Another thing that's interesting is this little splash of red in the background on a small building. But I think what is the most interesting thing about this photo is how bizarre it feels when you first see it. You sort of have to figure it out. And this mixture of bizarre and aesthetically, compositionally pleasing, I think, helps the photo along well. This next photo illustrates the value of working with a less than unique scene. Now, you may say, oh, that's pretty, right? It's a pretty scene. It is. But I would argue that if the person was not in this scene, we would have a photo that's just some trees and some snow, and it would not be a very engaging photo emotionally. The fact that this guy's standing in the frame, and you can sort of tell that he has a snowboard on, and that this is a ski, it provides context, right? This is a ski resort, snowbird. it provides context, it provides depth, it provides a sense of scale. You understand these trees are now huge, and him being part of the scene fills in the void that the photo needs to be intriguing and to be a winner. So you can take a less than unique scene, insert somebody interesting into the photo, and that will allow the photo to elevate itself and be a really solid photo, I think. And using a person to carry the responsibility for the emotional interest of the scene is another way to kind of think about it. Now, this next photo is one of my wife at the Salt Flats, Bonneville Salt Flats. Fun fact, they shot some of Pirates of the Caribbean, the part where he gets banished or something there. And also, what was my other fact? Sometimes this part is underwater, and then sometimes it's not. There's another one, but I forget what it was. So, in this photo, you have an example of a very, very unique scene with a beautiful subject in it. Now, her expression is interesting. She could have been looking away. She could have been square with the camera, but I actually find it way more interesting that she's sort of looking over her shoulder in the way that she is. It adds some intrigue to the scene. And it feels natural as well. It's not sort of this sort of lifestyle type of I'm feeling myself situation. So there's the expression. But in this case, I sort of framed background first and then inserted her into the mix. And what you have here is a very balanced and weighty feeling composition, because you have her perfectly in the center and you have these two mountains on either side of her. It feels very nice and balanced. And I also like the little added feature that on one side the mountain sort of jets up and on the other side the mountain sort of jets down. So these are little compositional things that you can work together in your head. And if you think background first and then insert your person into the frame, this is a good way to do that. The light is pretty interesting. Nothing crazy dramatic, but there's some shadows going on. It's nice and dramatic. Shot on her face. She's sort of the brightest point in the image, which is always a good thing. And also, there's a general feeling in this photo of a sort of minimalistic color palette. One, because there's just not a lot going on, but also there is a general feeling of a blue and beige type of feel to this photo. Now, what's interesting about this is you have it in the sky, and then you have the beige on the bottom half of the frame, but you also have these little blue streaks running through, right? These are little things, and I don't know if I intellectualize this, and this is an interesting thing to think about. I don't know if I intellectualized all of this while I was there. I'm sort of working halfway conscious, halfway subconscious when I'm taking these photos. But when I look back and go, why did that work? And in editing, why did I choose that photo? Why did I allow that photo to stay and not be gone with? Well, a lot of it has to do with these little things that came together, and then you start to break it down and understand, oh, let me try to do that more next time. Maybe on a more conscious level, and also work it into your subconscious. I think that works too. But the interest in this scene is that it is an extremely unique scene, and there is a value to putting yourself in these very unique locations. My photos are completely different now, obviously, now that I've moved from South Carolina to Utah. It's a completely different dynamic, and my photos are. I don't want to use terms of better or worse necessarily, because you can capture glorious photos if you're leveraging any location, any set of variables. But my photos are certainly make me happy, and they're certainly very engaging, and they're certainly a lot of fun to make. And there is value to putting yourself in situations where there are these dramatic landscapes and mountains and interesting people to explore. You go to India, right? And there's a lot of value to capturing that type of thing and applying your own vision to that type of landscape. So that's it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.